Dr. Vella, Ambassador of Malta to Estonia and Finland, I welcome you to this informative webinar organized by HARNO, the Estonian Education and Youth Board, in collaboration with Mindfulness with Elaine. Today's session, as you can see from the slide in front of you, focuses on the importance of IT platforms in education. And together with our 5 wonderful Estonian speakers, we will be sharing some successful tools, ideas, projects that perhaps some of you would like to bring to fruition. As we usually do, we would like to ask you to contribute via Slido very quickly. So for those of you who are not familiar with Slido, this is one way of how we get to know who our audience is. So we would like you to go to slido.com on any other device, particularly today when we're talking about IT platforms, any device, be it your tablet, your mobile phone, or another tab on your laptop, key in 676701 and simply answer our first question. And this would help us understand a little bit who our audience is. So we would like to know what your role is, what your job, what your profession is. 676701. Six seven six 701. Six seven six 701. Okay. Slido.com 676701. Okay, so as we can see, we've got a number of teachers, we've got a number of assistant heads, heads of schools. So we have a number of SLT members here. We have a colleague of mine, an education officer. I'm very happy that you're here. We've got policy makers here, heads of departments, chairmen, CEOs. Very good. So we've got quite a good mix, all of whom have, I'm sure, one mission and one vision, and that is making sure that our students get good quality education. So thank you for participating in this. And our next question, which is very much related to the topic of today's session, and we would like you to once again contribute via Slido by answering this question. Why is it important? Why is IT important in education? Why is IT important in education? So same number 676701. This is anything you can write in a sentence. It could be a word, anything that perhaps helps answer that question. Why is IT, information technology, information technology platforms important in education? Okay, so someone has acknowledged that we are in the digital age, that it is actually an enhancement to our already established teaching and learning. A very key word in that particular statement is personalized, which I think is key, especially in one of the sessions and in one of the presentations that we have today. The idea of interaction, engagement, gamification comes into play. So the idea of fun, the idea of it being a tool, but an indispensable tool nonetheless, the idea of enriching our already established subjects, and the idea of hoping that IT will help us overcome certain gaps that perhaps our previous educational systems did not manage to bridge. Very good, excellent. Thank you so much for participating in our Slido. I would like to now introduce the head of school and Ambassador for Finland and Estonia, a great leader and colleague and friend, Dr. Kenneth Vella, to give his introductory message. Dr. Vella.
Thanks a lot, Pam. Good afternoon. Good afternoon also to the organizers today. We also welcome all the participants and give my warm welcome also to our experts and guest speakers, Maria Rahamägi, Aivar Hiio, Tanel Keres, Mart Raadik, and Jelmer de Wolde, who will be presenting later on this evening. Today's webinar is the last from a series of 3 webinars discussing different educational services and tools organized by our Maltese and Estonian colleagues. This webinar is also the result of the collaboration during the past weeks between Mindfulness with Elaine and Education Estonia, which are organizing once again jointly today's event. In my role as Ambassador of Malta to Estonia and Finland, I am really honored to have started and facilitated such a collaboration. Today's webinar also confirms the excellent relations between Malta and Estonia, especially also in these challenging times. Once again, I thank Ms. Crystal Moistus, Project Manager within Education Estonia, Ms. Elaine Azzopardi, Director and Founder of Mindfulness with Elaine, for making today's webinar once again possible, our guest speakers who accepted the invitation, and also Ms. Pamela Zerafa, who is assisting once again today by coordinating this event. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Vella. And now allow me to introduce Elaine Azzopardi, once again, Founder and Director of Mindfulness with Elaine. Elaine, over to you.
Thank you, Pamela, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. It is with great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to our 3rd and final webinar being organized by our entity, Mindfulness with Elaine, in collaboration with Education Estonia. Please allow me to start by thanking Crystal Moistus, Project Manager of Education Estonia, for our collaboration over the past weeks. And also thank you to Dr. Kenneth Vella, Ambassador of Malta to Estonia and Finland, for facilitating our contact. I'm grateful for his support throughout these sessions. Thank you also goes to Ms. Pamela Zerafa for not only being our moderator, but for her assistance in the organization of these sessions. Thank you to our guest speakers who are with us today. And finally, I thank each and every one of you participants for your interest and presence. As the founder of Mindfulness with Elaine, it has been a pleasure and honor to be part of this journey. And following the success of these webinars, we have decided to continue organizing similar sessions in the near future under our newly established organization named Mindful Education Malta, an educational entity founded by Dr. Kenneth Vella and myself. The aim of this entity is to provide education and information to both adults and children by taking a mindful approach. We look forward to having you all present at our next webinars. More information will be provided in the coming weeks. I finish off with a quote by Aristotle, which captures the essence of both of my entities. Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you so much for that. And now it is my privilege and honor to introduce you to one of the important people behind all of this, Ms. Crystal Moistus, Project Manager of Education Estonia, who will be introducing our 5 main speakers for today. Crystal?
Yes. Thank you, Pamela. And before introducing our first speaker, I also would like to add that Education Estonia is very thankful for all the collaboration with all 3 Maltese partners, Ms. Pamela Zerafa from the Ministry, being moderator and also one of the organizer initiator of those webinars, also His Excellency Dr. Kenneth Vella and Ms. Elaine Azzopardi. So I'm really very, very thankful for all this collaboration, for all those webinars what we have made together. And now I would like to come to the part of introducing our speakers. And before doing this, I would like to say that all your participants, listeners of this webinar, you are very, very welcome to actively contact with all the speakers after the seminar and to discuss opportunities for collaboration. So, and now about our first speaker, Mr. Aivar Hiio, who is Project Manager of Learning Pathways at the Ministry of Education and Research. Aivar Hiio has worked in the education sector in various roles during his career, and currently he's working at the Strategic Planning Department in the Ministry, and the work involves the development of the Estonian edtech sector ecosystem, managing aspects of different devices, use implementation in schools, and many other duties. And Aivar Hiio is going to talk today about creating conditions for personalized education in Estonia. Aivar, I give you the stage is yours.
Hi, thank you everyone for this very well organized webinar, I have to say. Just going to look at the time to be precise here. I'm going to talk about the main sort of headline that I saw here as well, the importance of IT technology platforms in education. But not only the current situation, but why in Estonia we increasingly more emphasize the importance of using IT in education. The important part here being not the technology part, not anything else, but rather the data that is created and the freedom that allows for students. So just jumping in here, everything we do and that I'm going to talk about here has to do with strategic goals that come from the Estonian National Educational Strategy and Development Plan, as well as other underlying documents that all support this direction. So it is not an isolated sort of project, and we see other countries establishing these sort of directions as well. So I encourage the Maltese government as well as different institutions in Malta to look in this direction as well, because the more countries we have going in this direction, regardless of the size, Estonia is a very small country as well, the more opportunities we create for students. The new national strategy for education puts in the very center of all the goals that we have the learner, so students. And here I'd like to define sort of education and innovation in general as trying to change something in the immediate environment of the learner, of the students. So whatever aspect, whatever ambition the government has, the municipal government has, the school has, is changing something in the students' immediate environment and creating better value through that. So we're really trying to look at the student perspective here and trying to use technology to the best of our abilities for personalizing education to each student and taking into account their motivations, where they are in their development, and having technology leverage to help students reach their maximum potential. So we really envision this education system for the digital age being not focused on the technology part, but really these really humane values of personal development, goal setting, and planning. These values that put agency at the center of student development. So through ownership, through choice, we create more ownership, more a sense of I'm responsible for my learning. I am responsible for the outcomes that I produce. I am aware of myself and aware of my abilities and maybe shortcomings as well. And we can only achieve this through personalization, through breaking with the old system of where the teacher tries to get the entire classroom to the same level so that he or she can teach that classroom. So we're trying to create the conditions to break that path. And how do we go about doing this? Because we've had personalization as a goal in a previous strategic development plan as well, not as thoroughly highlighted as in this one. But what we learned from that is it really cannot be the task of the teacher alone. It simply goes beyond human capabilities of having so many students, so many young people in front of you, and personalizing to each of their abilities. So for this real-time overview of how they're progressing, we need digital solutions for students, teachers, other stakeholders to get a sense of where the student is and where we can intervene so that we can let him or her progress at their own pace at the subject that they are inspired by at that time, while still maintaining core curriculum outcomes. And for this, we really need standardization of data exchange, interoperability between different platforms, exchanging data, and giving that ownership of the that data to the students as well. So, as I said, this will help leverage technology to give each student a personal learning path and a real sense of I'm in charge. This is the mentality that we want our students after they graduate to have in their real lives or in their working lives as well, that they are in charge, they are making decisions, and they can develop not just in the school setting, but they are in charge of their own pathway through life as they graduate. So there are a lot of different building blocks that we are working on to achieve this. We are talking to different countries that are pursuing this same direction. I will not have time, unfortunately, to go into a lot of detail in these, but I will focus on maybe two, EdTech ecosystem governance, why we really focus on making sure that our companies that are providing these services do well, that we create the system, at least in the future, try to create the best system so that they can thrive and they can offer services that really quickly are able to be used in schools. So we really want different companies to be successful. And another area, maybe digitized national curriculum. So we're for this independent learning to take place, we really need to make sure that we have goals, that we have an understanding of each of these small individual activities as they break apart and students break into groups or individual learning, that they still meet these goals. So I'm going to just quickly share with you a part of our curriculum that we've digitized and just focus in on these. This is math, a bit of biology, 3rd or 7th to 9th grade mostly. So each of these gray boxes is a concept, and each of the green boxes is a definition or something related to that. and there's lines in between to show what correlates with what. And we really want to break apart so that our companies can provide learning material for each of these different learning outcomes, so that students can pick and choose and move around while still being coherent in the general curriculum. So we've in the last few years focused on creating better and better conditions in Estonia to create more companies, and we've seen a surge of different new ideas being developed. Why it is important for the private sector to come up with these and offer these services is that they come up with very complex services that are really desired by schools, by teachers, by students. The public sector is not good at making complex services. So this is really a partnership between private and public, and you're going to hear a few of our companies speaking today as well. Thank you. Aitäh.
Thank you so much for that. Extremely interesting. I wanted to try and see what those little dots were, but I couldn't really understand what they were. Not only because they were small, but they were obviously not in the language that I would understand. But very, very interesting. I open the floor to anybody. Please feel free to raise your virtual hand or simply type in chat, and we will make sure that we'll give you the time and space to contribute to this session. So the floor is yours. You have 5 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next speaker.
As people are coming up with questions, I'm just gonna share you this again. This distinguishes between different parts of blood cells. So hemoglobin, blood plasma. There's a lot of different learning outcomes, but yeah, not going to go into too much detail right now.
That looks extremely complex. We have a question. Mr. Woods, please feel free to unmute your mic.
Yes, hello. Are you hearing me?
We can hear you very clearly.
No. Thank you very much for your. My name is Joe Woods. I work in the informal educational sector, and I'm a private company. And because I'm a private company, I do not have any ministers above my head or any education officers. And so I can experiment and push the boundaries of education. That's not usually appreciated in this country. But anyway, I must say, Dr. Vella was one of the first people to open his school for my ideas and for our products. I have 2 questions. First of all, do you see with this personal thing, you know, the way that IT empowers, and what you are doing is that you are empowering the learner to take full control of his development and move forward? That as we go along, especially in your document, the Estonian document of education of the future, that education will move more out of school, or it will move more closer into the classroom? That is, I know it's a very open question. That is one thing. The other thing, do you feel that, you know, the dynamic changes which are going on in the world, do you think that what you are experiencing in Estonia, that the challenges of the speed of change, that school education systems can no longer, you know, meet with those challenges on a sort of, you know, agile and very timely framework? Are you finding this, you know, that slowly, you know, education will have to leave the education system and somebody else will have to do it?
Thank you for both those questions, Joseph. First of all, the Estonian educational strategy foresees an open educational space. So all of these different learning environments, we hope to, this doesn't sound sexy at all, but standardize to make those experiences something that a machine can understand. And as you go through those as a student, as a learner, then that gets added on to what you already know, what you already understand. All of this we are able to log this in the future, hopefully. So depending on what sort of experiences you've had, we can then suggest other experiences to build on that. So this is very much building on previous knowledge to create new knowledge and create a pathway that you get to choose as a learner, as you get suggestions by the path you at the goal you choose. So it's really important, that part. You choose your goal, then you get suggestions. The second part, I think, why I'm also working in education is the education system really needs to keep up with what is what the amount of change is overwhelming. And if we try to control that in the classroom, saying that, well, at least here we won't have change, we will not equip students at all with what they're going to be facing in the future. So I don't think of it as pouring gasoline on the fire. I think of it as an essential coping strategy for our communities, for our countries to work in the best sense. And I think the countries that do this the best will be the most successful. No question about it, I think.
Thank you so much, Mr. Woods. I don't know whether we have managed to answer your question. We have another question from Milan. Milan, perhaps you would like to unmute your mic before we move on to the next speaker to perhaps contextualize your question. What would be the age of the students? Milan?
Yes, I'm here. I'm asking if there are certain limits and structures in the age of the students, and if the relationship between the students and the teachers is changing, you know, in these different age groups.
The classroom sizes don't really fluctuate in Estonia, only when you get to the secondary school. But what I presented, we are moving from experimentation to experimentation, really, and we see other countries doing the same. We simply don't know, and we cannot come up with a machine that you turn on and then we know that it is right for this age group and is wrong for this age group. And what we really aim to do is to create more of that, is to focus on the professionalism of teachers to make the choices that is right. Because teaching doesn't really, teaching needs to focus more on the individual and being a sort of guide rather than teacher. And we are not able to do that yet, but we hope to see technology stepping in more and more. But we might have good science behind us about what works where, and we might have really good examples. We have private schools in Estonia that are really doing this this independent learning, especially from grades, the second, third grade upwards, very well already, and students are really able to do this, this more independent learning style. But as to changing the entire education system in Estonia, we're hoping to see teachers as partners to guide us through this, essentially, because there's no way to do it centrally so that we mandate what is best. It is impossible, I think. And innovation can only be a partnership in this regard.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very inspiring words, Aivar. I think what you're doing at the moment is, more than anyone, acknowledging the essential and critical role of the teacher in the classroom. And as a teacher myself, I have to thank you for that. So thank you so much for your presentation. Crystal, perhaps now we can move on to our second speaker for this afternoon.
Yes.
Yes, Crystal, over to you.
Yes,
Thank
thank you. And our second speaker is Mr. Mart Raadik. Mart is a Chief Technology Officer at ELIIS. ELIIS is innovative kindergarten platform for teachers, headmasters, parents, and local governments. And Mart has being a technology enthusiast with a track record of delivering business impact and driving technical innovation, focused on advancing technology vision at the scale. And Mart is going to talk about how ELIIS platform has changed the early childhood education and what is the future of kindergartens. Yes, please, Mart.
Thank you. I will be sharing my screen. All right. Hello. We in ELIIS have been working with kindergartens and preschools already for 8 years. And during that time, we have discovered quite interesting aspects of how kindergartens are working and how preschools are working and how children in very early age are being taught and educated. And the platform we have is an administration platform for the kindergartens and the teachers. So we are not focusing on content or the curriculum or the contents on the curriculum. We provide the platform for teachers and parents and local municipalities or private kindergarten chains to effectively administer the kindergartens and also increase the quality of education by that. But first of all, I would like to speak about the problems which we have seen more generally before speaking a little bit about the platform itself. So what we have discovered during our journey is that actually the communication with parents and the children is not in the same level as in schools, because kids by the age of 1 to 7 actually do not communicate very well with parents directly. So what is different in kindergartens is that actually parents and teachers need to communicate. But when we consider the kindergartens as just daycares, then actually this is not in a very good level. And the communication usually happens only inside the kindergarten when the children are picked up or brought in. The other thing is actually what was very fascinating for us is that early childhood education is also very, very filled with different learning aspects, and teachers in kindergartens are filling quite a lot of paperwork on daily basis, and it's a huge amount of paperwork actually they have to do. And the last main issue which we have seen is that the local municipality or the government or the private kindergarten chain, the management of this, they are usually lacking a very good oversight about attendance rates about meals, management of the food, and etc. And these are the most critical issues which we are tackling today. And one thing which we are seeing solving or coming to help is digitalization, because kindergartens in many countries are still doing a lot of paperwork and communicating by different means which are not really effective. But I'm just briefly touching 4 points or myths which we have discovered for ourselves. First of all, the infrastructure. It's known that, of course, the kindergarten needs a computer or computers. They need internet as well. But what is interesting is that actually first they need the digital solutions and then they need the infrastructure. It doesn't come the other way, because there is no motivation to build the infrastructure if there are no tools which the teachers and the kindergartens can use. So we are also pursuing our scaling in a sense that we are not really, we don't care if the infrastructure is there. And well, using the mobile devices, which everybody has, personal mobile devices, it's even easier to start using digital tools in kindergartens who don't yet have that IT infrastructure. Another thing is processes. And what I want to bring out is that if a kindergarten or any education institution starts more heavily using digital tools, then changing the processes of how they operate, how they manage the teaching processes, they can be changed, because digital tools don't have this kind of limitations which paper has. For example, the archiving process, where we gather all the materials which teachers have been doing with the children and all the reports, and they are being just put in a cupboard. On a digital platform, you don't think about archiving at all. Everything is automated. Another thing is filling in the attendances of when the children are coming to the kindergarten and when they are not, what are they doing. This is usually what the teachers are doing, but with the digital tools and including parents also to the process, many things can be automated. Parents can send absence notifications through the systems or online, and teachers can automatically know already what will be happening today in the kindergarten. How many kids are coming to the group or the class? And of course, reporting is one of the processes, but reporting and reducing the need to create reports, send reports, is something which we have seen. We have been able to eliminate 80–90%. It's amazing. Teachers don't have to report to the headmaster anymore what are the daily attendances for the kids or children, what are the meals they are having, to report them into the caterer. The headmasters don't need to report the monthly attendance percentages, attendance rates to the municipality. Instead, the accountant in the local municipality can open the digital tool, can automatically get all the information and import it directly into the invoicing system if the invoices need to be sent out to parents. And the last thing is collaboration. And this is where the education quality also comes in. We have seen that when kindergartens and teachers really adopt digital tools, which are effective, then they will get more time. They will get even a lot of more time. And this time can be spent on the children. So instead of filling out reports and refilling them and sending them to multiple different places, filling out monthly plans and communicating with different parents and repeating themselves. Digital tools can really make a difference here, and teachers can focus more on children. So those are the key takeaways. And briefly now also about the tool itself, the solution which we have been building and promoting, not just in Estonia, but multiple countries already, is ELIIS. It's a web-based solution, and it can be used in different devices, on a mobile device, on a computer, inside the kindergarten. And it incorporates all of the main functions which the kindergarten is doing into one simplified tool and connects those functions into one system, and everything which the kindergarten needs is in one place, including communication, reporting, and everything. As I said, multiple countries. We have over 700 kindergartens already in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Germany, Finland as well, a little bit. And we see that the early childhood education is a little bit different in every country, but the main things are still the same. And as our tool enables to adopt different curriculums or different learning methods and personalize them per the needs of country, then we see that there is no obstacles of our tool ELIIS being used in Malta, Europe, in Asia, in US, any place. We have also done feedback analysis, and we are lucky to see that actually our goal to save teachers' time has been effective. So from the feedback, we have seen that over 98% of the teachers, who are tens of thousands of them using daily ELIIS, they are reporting that they are seeing more time being given to them to deal with the children. A small overview of all the different functions which ELIIS can do, like diary, child attendance management, and different cards or documents for development and measuring the development of the children in various ways. Of course, all the documents and images and videos which usually teachers like to take and parents like to watch. These are in the system, and working schedules for the teachers themselves. Of course, messaging in events and all the different applications which the parents do. So this is what ELIIS today already incorporates. And not just the kindergarten themselves, but there are various other personnel in the kindergarten, not just teachers, who can use and who can benefit from using ELIIS. And as today we are actively offering ELIIS in basically all of the countries, then we are approaching all the kindergartens, daycares, preschool education institutions, and offering them to try ELIIS. Because if they start trying, then usually they see the benefit in ELIIS and why is it good, and if it and how it really helps them to save their time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mart. I think it would really help me, if anything, with all the paperwork that I know a lot of teachers perhaps waste time on, if I dare say that, because as you said, and I'm sure our educators within this session agree, that our focus should be on the students that we have and on the learners that we have in front of us. Any questions to Mart? Please, at this point, raise your virtual hand or write in chat. We'll give you a few minutes and then we'll move on to our third speaker for today. If I may ask, Mart, you seem to focus on kindergarten because that seems to be the focus of this particular platform. What age group would you say this caters for then?
Well, most of the kindergartens in Estonia focus on ages 1 to 7. 6 or 7 is the time when children usually go to school and change their learning habits and processes. They start getting grades, they start getting and attending different classes during the day. But some schools like Waldorf schools who are focusing on the first grades or first years in the school, also on descriptive learning and descriptive grading, then those schools there are a few schools also using ELIIS. So today, even up to age 10, but most of the children in kindergartens are up to age 7.
In Malta, as you know, we have compulsory schooling starting at the age of year 1, which is roughly around the age of 5. We have students going to kindergarten from the age of 3 and then 4, which we call obviously the early years, and then they move on to year 1 and year 2, but that would be compulsory schooling. So I think this would be very relevant to those kind of cohorts in our schools. Thank you so much, Mart. We'll move on now to our next speaker, Crystal.
Yes, our next first speaker is Mr. Tanel Keres, and Tanel is the CEO of eSchool, what is the school management platform. And Tanel has a background in the public sector in the field of finance and education, but last 5.5 years he has been acting as the head of eSchool, which is the owner and administrator of the school management system. And Tanel is going to talk about how education has changed after COVID and how eSchool helps schools and homes with its solutions. Thank you. And Tanel, I give the word to you now.
Hello, thank you. I'm glad to be here. My name is Tanel Keres, and yes, I'm coming from the company named eKool. Kool in Estonian means school, so it's like eSchool, so like electronic school or however you want to name it. Let me share my slides as well. And all right, I hope you can see them now. And yeah, as a company, we are already been acting for 20 years already. So this year we are actually celebrating our 20th year of anniversary. So it's quite a long time. I would say that we have been maybe one of the first companies that started to provide such kind of system for schools. So it's, yes, as I mentioned, it's a school management system that we are providing. And as Mart just talked about his product ELIIS, which is meant for kindergartens. So basically eKool is similar tool for schools. But I would like to start with some slides regarding COVID-19 impact. So what we actually saw from our system, what happened during that time. So as our tool was already used in schools, it was very interesting to monitor what is going to happen and what actually what are the things that will be used more or less. And now when we turned to distance learning overnight, maybe the first thing was that let's say the usage of the system increased about 6 or 7 times. So the same users that use the system, the number of the users who stayed on the platform at the same time has increased about 6 times. So it was quite a big thing. So actually teachers, students and parents logged into the system in the morning and actually were there until the evening. So this was something that was quite interesting. Before the COVID time, in the morning there were teachers, afternoon came the students and parents, and then it just faded out. But yes, during the COVID time, everyone just logged in and they were engaged in computer basically the whole day. So intensive usage of eKool, its features, and I would say that the messaging was the one tool that actually had the main increase. And also another thing what I would like to mention is that sharing files and materials, and this is basically an obvious that it happened, but yes, it did happen. So that that was a little bit of a shift in the mindset of teachers as well, that how to use the system and for what you are going to use it. Because before the COVID time, not so many files were shared, but yes, our platform was the tool to share it between home and school. And of course, using of learning management systems and its integrations was also a very, very big, let's say, peak or increase in such tools. So these were the main things that we actually saw what happened. So many things changed, especially the communication part and also file sharing. And if I would like, and now I would like to also say that what we see and what we have heard from schools, what are the impacts or what will remain like this these days. The distance learning seems to be here. It's gonna be there with us basically forever, because teachers, and I actually know schools who have said that they will continue with distance learning for maybe one couple of weeks or up to 1 term per year. And the idea would be that then the students can focus more on some specific things, and also the teachers saw that yeah, students are maybe more focused on some things during this distance learning. Another thing is the attendance. Schools are saying that if you're ill at home, you should still participate in school, in the lessons, because as now all the classrooms are basically equipped with tools like cameras or whatever there are, students can join also over web. And this is now has become quite normal, that students are, so some of the students are in the classroom and the other students are actually in school at home and have joined the classroom activities over web. Substitutions. What again, next thing that headmasters have now talked, and what we can also see from this from the system is that there has been like an a decrease of substitutions, because if teacher knows that he or she's gonna be away, there are multiple ways how to do or how to give the lesson still. Whether you have a good colleague from next room who will just turn on the camera and gives like a lesson in 2 classes in parallel. This is one option. Another option is that teacher actually records the lesson assigns the tasks so that students can do the things in the classroom during that lesson, although teacher is not physically there. And basically, as headmasters have said, that substitution or absence by the teacher is not the topic anymore. The lessons have to be given. And this is actually a very interesting shift from the period. And the fourth thing I would like to mention is that using the digital tools has increased quite a lot. So we managed to, although the teachers were behind the computers already before the COVID time, their usage also now has changed. They are using more tools. They are not afraid of trying new things. And this is actually something that we also see from the system, what have been shared with students and with the class. And lessons learned. I would put it this way, that the major, these things can happen, and problems might happen, like the COVID happened with us, and technology is definitely a sure thing that you can rely on, and using tools, those help you not to not stop the learning process or teaching process. What we also see is that integrations matter. Whether they are with learning management systems or whatever the other things might be, easy to navigate from one environment to another. And yeah, learning with technology is important, and using different tools, I would say that we here in Estonia, we definitely survived. So this is a short overview about how we manage this COVID time, and also what we see from our system. But regarding the system, I would still like to tell you a couple of words about eKool, what it is. It's an inclusive system for schools, which connects all the relevant parties, students, parents from home side, teachers and school management from school side, and also local authorities. And the information that is stored in the system are the grades and then homeworks, attendance management, file sharing, reports, so on and so on. And also, as I mentioned, that what also turned out to be a very important thing during the COVID time are the integrations. So our system is integrated with different systems, and we are working on other integrations as well. And maybe the most important things about our system, that what we also see is that, and what we have asked from teachers, for example, is that teachers have said that they have cut their administrative time in half, and they are actually saving 45 minutes per day. And skipping has been reduced. In 5 years, it's 30%, but if we are talking about 15 years, it would be about 95%. And parents are involved in the learning process also by checking the grades and homeworks. So these are the main three, let's say, outcomes that we are the most proud of. And for students and parents, we have different tools, like homeworks and messaging and so on and so on. But I would like to share with you just a couple of screenshots. Like this is how the home will see it, like homeworks and grades and school notes, and also how school can see your journals. If you are a teacher in a 4th grade math or 5th grade math, these are all your teachers' journals. Also the messaging that is built in our platform, so you can actually get rid of the messaging platforms and also email lists, and just replace with one tool. So all is available in web and in mobile. And maybe one last important thing from me to you is that if there are some schools from Malta who would like to try our tool, definitely sign up. Let me know, and I will be glad to give it a try for your schools. So just please contact me. My name is here. Also, you can get my contacts from organizers. So definitely, we believe that exciting times are ahead. So please join our community. Thank you very much, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanel. Thank you so much for that. I do have a question in particular, but I'll give the floor to the audience, to our participants first. Any questions from you, please feel free to raise your hand or to put it in the chat. I'll give you some time to perhaps think about any questions or any suggestions you'd like to make. I'm not very good with silences, Tanel, so I'm just going to give you a very quick question. It's very clear from your slides that the education ministry in Estonia made it very clear that teachers have to continue teaching whether kids are at home or whether the kids are at school, which is something I believe in very, very strongly. However, one of the things that we face in Malta, which stops us from doing or taking certain decisions or certain direction, are our unions. How strong are the teacher unions in Estonia, and to what extent would they stop something like this in Estonia?
Thank you. Yeah, there is a teachers union in Estonia, but I would like to say that their part in designing the policy, their part is more like designing the policy. And to be honest, I haven't heard much about their, let's say, activities regarding the learning teaching process, but rather like whether it's the question of a salary or it's the question of some law. So this is where they come to, they are activated, let's put it this way. So this is the situation from what I have seen, what I have experienced. Maybe Kristel would like to add something, or maybe Aivar would like to add something regarding that. But yeah, main topics are, like, say, giving an input to law, let's say, legal framework. Let's put it this way.
Okay, thank you, Tanel. I don't know if there are any other questions or contributions from the audience. If not,
Crystal? Yeah, there is actually, Pamela.
I'm sorry, I couldn't see it. Is it in chat? Okay. Andre, perhaps you would like to share your concern with Tanel. Andre mentions that he believes that children are more difficult to learn online than adults. Andre, I'll leave it to you.
Yes, correct. My observation is that it's easier to teach adults online. Sometimes adults even ask for it to be online due to flexibility, and also because adults work full time. So for them, having something online, it's something easier to go for. And as well that adults have what we call work experience. As contrast to children who are just based on education, they need kind of that physical, to be physically in a class. Sometimes something that keep their attention towards what they are learning. Sometimes they are there are still learning difficulties within the class, when children have to learn, but they have more difficulties when they are at their comfort of their home, perhaps. Sometimes there are many distractions, more than the teacher could see from the other side of the session.
Thank you.
Before you answer, Tanel, can you give us a little bit of a background, Andre? Can you tell us who you are and perhaps what you do, just so we can understand the context from where you're coming from?
I work in transport mostly. I don't teach actually children, but I do observe most comments. So I work mostly in policy. Mostly I work on research and implementation and EU funds. So that's my background. Sometimes I also give some teaching for project leaders to implement things. It's way easy. Sometimes I also assist in IPS, Institute of Public Service. That's from my end. When it comes to children, my experience is that I noticed through both my family members and also to the feedbacks of people who do give us some feedback on what has changed during the pandemic, the number of issues, women working from home, the difficulty they had to find a balance by working from home and assisting their children to attend classes. So there are a number of things which I have received some feedback.
Thank you. I totally agree with your statement that actually online learning for students it's a challenge, and this is also something that we experienced here as well. And but what I mentioned, or what I wanted to say in my presentation, is that there are, in some cases, schools have decided to continue with maybe some courses, some lessons, some, let's say, weeks, distance learning weeks. So there still is something that they would like to use or take it with. But in general, I do agree with you. It came too suddenly. Students were not very ready for that. And also, student self-discipline is not that what is for the adults. This is also something I agree with both hands. So it had challenges. And of course, the contact learning for kids gives better results. I agree with that. But again, there are some, let's say, options, or let's say new possibilities out there with distance learning as well. And this is something that teachers have picked up and saying that, okay, we should try it in some, but again, if they are going to try it or they are organizing it well, it definitely gives good results. If you know that what I'm going to do, if you plan that the good way, let's say. So I agree with you, and but yes, some schools would like to still like use distance learning and plan. They are planning it to their own, let's say, work plan, let's say.
I think there's also to be like a cultural, perhaps, understanding. Example, if you have to compare northern countries to southern countries, there's an issue like personal space. The space that two people hold from one another. So even with our own culture, being in limited space is quite acceptable, while in the north is different. In the north, there are children who are used to learning online because of distance. In Malta, we're just an island, so perhaps we take it sometimes, we took it before at least for granted. While as how Mrs. Zerafa has outlined, things came too quickly, and we weren't well prepared for it. And we have the challenges of the unions, we have the difficulties of how people should react, whether children should attend or not, whether teachers should be seen or not. Some teachers didn't even ask the children how they are feeling or how they are doing at the start of commencing online lessons. There was some attitude which was very difficult So sometimes the children are kind of shouldn't be the victims here because they have no fault at all. So I believe that we should try to bring all things together, because at the end of the day, the children are the future, our future, and the next generation.
Yes, thank you. And one comment came here regarding special education needs. I would like to mention is that schools with students who have special education needs never went to distance learning in Estonia. So
that's very interesting point, Tanel. We didn't know that, but because of COVID, all our schools went online. And remember that in Malta, Tanel, especially in the first lockdown, teachers were given the possibility of not teaching online. So it was a personal choice. And obviously, I mean, we're all humans. Some people opted for the easier choice. Not all, not all. Because I think I need to acknowledge the people who actually took their job seriously and did a really good job. Miriam, I don't know whether you would like to voice your opinion. I know that Mr. Woods also has a question. Perhaps we should do it in chronological order. Mr. Woods?
Sorry, Joe, please. I just want, first of all, thank you for your presentation. Looking at your system, you know, there is a wave now regarding artificial intelligence. Do you think your system, have you ever thought or planned to inculcate, you know, artificial intelligence in your system to make it more versatile? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We have, but it's a tricky thing. Let's put it this way, that what we have done or researched internally is that we can actually predict in September what kind of grade the student will get in June, the final grade. But again, this is very tricky thing because we definitely don't want to tell it, because we will kill the motivation of the student. So we can see it. But this is something that we just stopped thinking about, because we see that there are worse thing. It's not so good, let's put it this way. So if you drag down the motivation of the student, okay, you can nudge them to get better, but this is maybe one thing. But another thing is actually that we are also thinking along with but this is maybe it's just the data let's say analyzing is what we are going to do with what Aivar actually told you about this picture, where all the learning outcomes and all these kind of things. So basically that student could see where is his or her, let's say, where he is lacking of or what things are not obtained yet. So where are the gaps? So that would be, but this is just the data like analyzing. It's not like AI. But yes, we are also thinking about that way. A couple of things I already told you. But yeah, one tool that we actually have implemented, it's also like a data analyzing, is the, nudging the form master to see that if a student has a problem, like if there are like more absences, or the grades are dropping, or there are like bad behavior complaints or something like that. So we give a notification to the class teacher, so the class teacher can actually turn to student and say, hey, what's going on? How can I support you? What are the issues? What are the problems to get the student back on track?
Thank you, Tanel. I'll hand over to Miriam. She's a colleague of mine, one of the most hardworking people I know on this planet. Miriam, your question.
So, as a personal experience, we have some students in our school that, for example, they are severely autistic. And during the lockdown, it was very difficult to to reach them, especially when they were at home. It was very difficult, especially when they are used to hands-on activities. Also, personally, my son has Asperger's, the youngest one, and during lockdown, it was very, very hard for us. Since, for example, they had from 8 till 2 in the afternoon, straight lessons, and he was so bored and we were so frustrated, but we had to try to find the best way we could so can stay seated down for the online lessons and do his lessons. So it was quite challenging for those parents who have special needs kids. But we do our best to try and find a common ground.
Very quick answer for you. As I mentioned, for special education needs students, the schools were not in distance learning. They remained in contact. And actually, in Estonia, there were also some students who were basically lost during that time. And now schools and teachers are doing a lot of job to get those students back on track. Okay. And this is probably the major thing that they are struggling with. So kids are the same.
Tanel, and I think a very important point that you've raised and that Miriam has raised, I think that you mentioned that special education schools remained functioning and open, but a direction that Malta has taken, Tanel, and it's important for you to understand the context that we work in an effort to be inclusive. A lot of our students are part of mainstream education. So in Gozo, which is where I live, we only have one special education school with very small number of students. The majority of students who do have special educational needs are part of mainstream. So that's even worse because there was nothing that targets and caters for that. So I'm assuming, Tanel, that if you have issues with students who have autism, for instance, would they be found in mainstream education or would they be found in special schools?
In mainstream, in Estonia as well. So we are also following the let's say, inclusive education. And if I was talking about the special education needs students, so those are the, let's say, students who have, who are not included in the regular classes, like, but the idea in Estonia is the politics is the same, that we include, let's say, those students who can learn in, let's say, whether it's a small class or the whole class, they are included in a class. But I was talking about those special education needs who actually have some, let's say, bigger ability issues, let's say.
Yes. Thank you, Tanel. Thank you for all of those people who contributed. We would like to now move on to our penultimate speaker, Crystal.
Yes. And now we are carrying on Ms. Maria Rahamägi, who is the CEO and founder of Edumus. And this is the platform connecting schools with professional specialists. And Maria is the founder of distance learning school Edumus and was also the co-founder of the Estonian initiative named as Every Student Online in March 2019 to provide digital devices to enable all families to take part of distance learning. Maria has also organized EdTech hacks and been a board member of the umbrella organization EdTech Estonia. And Maria is going to talk about how to provide efficient education systems and also about distance learning and what Edumus School is providing. Thank you. I give the word to you now, Maria.
Thank you. So hi, I'm Maria Rahamägi, the founder of Edumus, and we are bringing 21st century skills to schools and doing that via distance learning. Edumus actually started 3 years ago by bringing specialists physically to schools to teach. and that all to make education more practical and more closely tied together with the industries that the students will ultimately work in. However, what we saw is that on the specialist side, there's lots of interest to go to schools and teach, and on the school side as well, there's interest to involve those teachers. However, the schools are lacking the administrative resources to manage those additional teachers, especially when they're working part-time. And thus, in last year, we initiated Edumus School, which is a distance learning school for elective subjects. Why is it important to bring 21st century skills to schools is that 17% of 20 to 34-year-olds in the EU were neither in employment nor in education. And at the same time, we're lacking workforce in many of the critical sectors. And we see that to fix this system, we need to fix the system as a whole and start bringing those work-life knowledge and skills already to the general education and not only leave it to the higher education. And yeah, as said, Edumus School is a distance learning school for elective subjects such as financial literacy, social media marketing, applied biology, architecture, IT skills, and many other different topics. Edumus is a platform for content creators and high school students. So we're a platform for experts to develop and deliver hybrid courses to high school students all over Estonia and internationally too. We have started up piloting this year. However, we are seeing a big growth in interest from Estonian high school students and interest internationally. So we will be initiating first courses in Armenia coming this fall, and there are other countries in the pipeline as well. And we see that working with schools and local governments is possible. However, it's quite time consuming and can be slow. So that's why we will be focusing on students first, meaning that if they show interest towards the courses, they can already purchase and participate in the courses on their own. And then we have the opportunity and good basis on to talk with the local governments and the schools to start covering their students' participation fees. In Estonia, for example, 60% of the courses this year were covered by students themselves and 40% were covered by the schools. However, we see that cooperating with schools is important to enable equitable access to these courses to all students, no matter their financial background. And I'm glad that the Estonian schools feel the same way. So, so far we have already reached and signed agreements with a fifth of Estonian high schools. And we see that Edumus School is a very good complement to the existing high school education system. That's because elective courses which are provided by schools themselves are quite general because they have to attract very large proportion of the small number of students they have in their own schools. However, the electives that universities, for example, provide in Estonia tend to be more academic ones. And we see that the self-learning platforms and the international platforms, they're not really tailored for the formal education. So we see that the approach of Edumus School of working together with the local education systems and the schools is the way to go. And we see that in 2030, students will be designing their learning journeys themselves. And as Aivar Hiio before was talking, this personalization in the education systems will become more prevalent as time goes by. And we in Edumus School see that this can be fairly easily done by providing really wide variety of specific elective courses that the students would be able to participate in. And by letting students choose the topics that they're learning in high schools, we take the burden away from the teachers themselves to personalize the learning journeys. But the students have made the choice already by the time they reach their classes. And we see that by firstly allowing and supporting elective subjects in high schools, it's the pathway to a more dynamic education system. So distance learning courses can create more options for the high school students and also enable students of very different locations and backgrounds study together. And why not have also international elective topics to bring the world even more closely together? And also I see that this is a great way to include international students in your local education systems. So for example, if there are Maltese students abroad who would like to still take part of some Maltese courses, then that's a great way to do so. Or if there are some international students who would be interested in participating in your education system partly or fully, then that's also a great way to do that. And we are ready to include some Maltese students in our courses for free already in fall. So if you think that we should try this approach of distance elective courses out, then let me know. I'm Maria, and this is Edumus School.
Thank you so much, Maria. I really hope that our audience takes up your offer, because I think it's extremely important that at least we can give it a try. Maria, I think it's extremely interesting that giving students the possibility of learning and choosing more than anything, whatever it is that they want to learn, that ownership is definitely the way forward. I'll open the floor to our audience. Any questions, any comments? I'll give you a few minutes to come forward.
Pamela, we have already a question again in the chat.
Thank you, Crystal. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you very much for your presentation. Please explain to the audience why you are talking about 21st century skills. These are the skills which are most demanded by companies all over the world. Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So one of the top skills that is required is creative thinking or creativity. I wonder if you do anything or you supply anything regarding, you know, these skills. Okay. And secondly, I'm going to write my email down there, please. I do some work in Africa and I'm very interested in your platform. Okay, for Africa. Thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah, so from distance, we can teach many creative subjects as well. Examples over here are architecture or game design, for what we are already teaching.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for that question. I don't know whether there are any other questions. And I'm glad that you're going to take up this offer, Joe, and the offer is open to other people, obviously, here. If not, if there aren't any other questions or contributions, Crystal, perhaps we can move on to our final speaker. Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll leave my... Ah, okay.
Yes. And you can see from the chat, Maria, the contacts, yes, from the last questioner. And now to our last speaker, Mr. Jelmer de Wolde, who is International Development Manager at DreamApply. And this is the solution, Europe's leading admission management solution for education institutions. And Jelmer is an international development manager with already 9 years of experience with student application management solutions for education. And he's focused on building relationships with higher education institutions to improve their way of working and help them reach their ambitions. And he's happily working at DreamApply for 4 years and supporting more than 300 partners in more than 40 countries. And Jelmer is going to talk about how DreamApply helps education institutions and why DreamApply is the best solution in these circumstances. And I give the word to you now, Jelmer.
Okay, thank you, Crystal, and good afternoon, good evening, and maybe good morning for some people. Good to see everyone. My pleasure to be part of this webinar as well. So yeah, as Crystal already mentioned, my name is Jelmer de Wolde. I'm working for DreamApply, and DreamApply is for higher education institutions and with higher education institutions. Before I give you a little bit of a background of what we do and why we are doing what we are doing, maybe first a little bit of a background about higher education in general, because I am actually, I would say, a wannabe Estonian, because I came to Estonia in 2016. And before I came to Estonia, I was actually teaching at the University of Amsterdam. So I know that universities in general, they are facing certain difficulties or problematic things like processing income applicants from different countries, or keeping track of all the information, keeping track of all the students. Information can be in different places within the university. It can be sometimes a problematic thing to collect payments or to send invoices or to automate workflows. And what we see as well when it comes to international students, universities many times lose actually track of their applicants because they are busy with too many things. As Pamela already mentioned during one presentation, a lot of the staff in universities or schools is actually spending the time on, let's say, irrelevant things, which can be done automatically. But at the same time, for students, what we see, or for future students, let's say, the application process is sometimes extremely complicated. They cannot find the information they want to see. The communication with the university is sometimes an issue. They don't know with whom to communicate. It can be problematic to upload documentation, to make payments, for example, online. So this is a little bit of a background why DreamApply actually started in 2011. Because we started in 2011, oh, one slide too fast, in 2011. And ever since we are partnering with 300 plus higher education institutions in 40 plus countries. And our platform is a student application management and recruitment system. So if universities or academies or colleges would like to attract more domestic students, international students, maybe exchange students, or they are maybe providing scholarships. If you would like to grow and if you would like to work more automated and more efficient, then we are a solution. And besides the solution, we offer trainings, onboardings. We keep the system updated. I can say it's from the highest level of cybersecurity. We are GDPR compliant, ISO certified. So we basically offer the full package for higher education institutions. And maybe a good thing to know is that the whole implementation process takes up to around 4 to 6 weeks. So the platform can be launched really quickly. And at the same time, the admission staff from the university can also start working with it to, for example, work more efficient and grow the number of applications. Important as well is that the system as a platform is, let's say, it's like it can be like a tailor-made shirt, basically. So you have the platform, and on top of that, you can have all sort of extra features based on your wishes and needs, because maybe you would like to do marketing, but maybe not. So there is a variety of functionalities you can choose from, like marketing, to track marketing campaigns, engage with your leads, send all sort of information automatically to interested applicants, make reports or tables of all the information from your system. Because as we all know, information is knowledge, and this knowledge is power, basically. But at the same time, you can collect payments online, automate workflows, score and rank your incoming applications based on the quality that you maybe would like to receive. You can create all sort of tasks and, yeah, how shall I say? Let's say a certain set of homework for your applicants. So to make sure that you receive actually the applicants you would like to receive, so that not everyone can apply to your institution, in order to avoid dealing with unnecessary applications. So it's a time saver, so to say. And of course, we are all extremely young in this chat, so no doubt about that. But the generation of the students of today is even younger when it comes to higher education. So these, yeah, youngsters, so to say, they are, you know, demanding basically that a university is also anno 2022, so that an applicant can apply via a mobile phone or via a tablet or from anywhere on this planet as long as there is internet. And at the same time, he or she would like to use all sort of applications like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Dropbox, PayPal, Flywire, whatever. So we also offer this possibility with our system to make an integration with 4,000 plus applications to integrate your system with. And as I mentioned earlier, we are actually partnering at the moment from Sweden to Africa, from South America to Japan and everything in between. Actually, in Malta, we are at the moment partnering with the American University of Malta, but yeah, we are of course always, you know, open to expanding there as well. And what we see as well from our partners is that as soon as they start using DreamApply, we see a growth every year in the number of applications, but also in the number of quality applications. So in Hungary, for example, we see a huge growth in the number of international students study in Estonia, our Maltese partner as well. So everywhere where the system is in place, we see a growth and at the same time working more efficiently. So it doesn't mean that you need to hire more colleagues, so to say, but you can just do more work with the same amount of colleagues, but you're just much more efficient. And just to give you some idea of the numbers, what we see average is a decrease of around 60% in the manual workload or administrative workload. We see an increase average of 40% in the efficiency of the admission staff, so to say. Average as well, a growth of around 50 to 100% in the number of applications over 3 years' time. And it's not really mentioned here, but basically what we see as well is that as soon as a higher education institution is using DreamApply or starts using it, yeah, they basically never want to go back because they get so used to the efficiency. But yeah, from my own experience, it's also sometimes difficult for institutions to make this kind of switch. I will come back to that later in this presentation. Some testimonials, someone from Hungary is, for example, commenting that, you know, it's a great platform to automate and work, and streamline your workflows. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier also about data, we all know, as I said, data is knowledge, and that knowledge is key today. You can extract a lot of data from your system, and based on that data, you can make all sorts of decisions. For example, to make your marketing more efficient, to target certain countries, to update your website, anything to get more visibility about your activities. And yeah, as I basically also mentioned, we are really looking forward to get in touch with Maltese partners as well. So if you would like to know more about the solution for your higher education institution, please let me know. Contact me via LinkedIn or email. If you would like to see actually the system, unfortunately, I cannot see it here because I always make it tailor-made for the institution. But if you would like to see a glimpse of the system, just let me know. We get in touch and I can share it with you at any time convenient for you. That suits you. So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, please let me know. I don't bite, so feel free to ask me anything you want.
Thank you so much. I encourage you to ask any questions at this point. I will give the audience a few minutes. Again, you may use chat. Joe, do you have a question? I can see your... No? Okay, sorry. I thought you had a question.
No.
Anyone else? You mentioned a very important point, and this is something that the ministry seems to be harping on as well. In our case, the idea of having evidence-based and the direction we take should be evidence-based, and the fact that it would be at the touch of a button, I think would make everybody's life a lot easier. I think that the switch would need to be very slow and gradual, but I think at the end of the day, if you have everything there and it's all there at the touch of a button, I think it would definitely make everybody's life a little bit easier. I don't know whether we have any other questions. I would like to conclude before everybody leaves the session, because I would like to introduce, or perhaps invite everybody to our next webinar. So thank you so much. I don't know how to pronounce your surname.
My name, De Wolde.
De Wolde, okay.
But that's perfect. No worries.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so I don't know whether we have any questions on any of the presentations today. If you do, please, now is the time to raise your hand or use the chat function. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any questions. I'm going to start sharing my screen now, and I would like to share once again the email addresses for all the speakers that we had today. I would like to thank the speakers for sharing their projects and their ideas and their insights. And I think, I mean, I can speak for myself. I think I have some ideas, and I think if anything, it would give me hope that at least I think we're on the right track. Before we move on to the end of the session, I would like to present our audience with some food for thought. I would like you to watch this clip. It's only a minute, so it won't take you long.
Technology has come such a long way. It's crazy to think about, like, a child born today may never know about cash or credit cards. I mean, what are they going to steal from their mom's purse? Like, cigarettes, that's about it. I have a little 3-year-old niece, or maybe she's 4 or 9. She's precious. And I watched her grow up with this technology. It's amazing, because kids learn so quickly. She uses the iPad better than any adult I've ever seen. She also tries to eat it, but that's not the point. Obviously, kids are good at technology because they grew up with it. But then I thought, well, what if I invite a few kids here and I introduce them to some things that I grew up with to see if they would recognize it. So first, I introduced them to the very first cell phone. So Rebecca and Trey, I brought an item, and I would like you to tell me what this is. Do you know what it is?
Oh, I know. And it's not any ordinary phone. It's an olden time phone. Yeah, they used that back in the day.
Back in the day. When you say back in the day and you say an old-time phone, how long ago do you think this was used?
Oh, 100.
100 years ago?
Yeah, it doesn't even have no FaceTime.
No, I mean, it does. You could do it, but then no one would see it. You'd just be talking right into the phone. Like,
And like if somebody walked in, they would be like, why are you talking into a phone?
right, and then they'd haul you away and put you in the loony bin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loony bin.
Yeah, you know.
Okay,
Technology.
I would like to perhaps reflect a little bit on that clip. It's funny, I'm a big fan of Ellen DeGeneres, but that's not the reason why I shared it there with you. I think that what we're trying to put here and put forward here is precisely what John Dewey, yeah, I'm sure you're all familiar with, the educational reformer, philosopher, and he expressed how forward-looking we have to be as educators. He said, and I'm quoting him, "If we teach today as we taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow." And we strongly feel that to do so, we have to incorporate technology, whether we like it or not. We now face Gen Z and now we have Gen A. You know, these are digital natives. People, as Ellen DeGeneres mentioned, they were born with mobile phones, tablets, TikTok, you know, Snapchat. This is their language, and technology, therefore, is part of their life. It is not a choice. It can't be a choice. It's a critical part of their existence, and therefore, it has to feature in their education too. That doesn't mean, however, and I'm going to latch on to what some of our speakers mentioned today, that doesn't mean that teachers are obsolete. On the contrary, technology should always be seen as yet another tool, and when used, two very important keywords mentioned today, effectively and efficiently by great teachers, the result is transformational. To close off the webinar, I would like to invite Dr. Vella once more for his closing remarks. Dr. Vella?
Thanks very much once again, Pam. Thanks also to the presenters that we had this evening. Definitely all the presentations were interesting and also make you reflect about the way forward in education and also about the way forward in the collaboration between different countries for the benefit also of our children, of our students. Once again, I would like to thank Elaine Azzopardi and Kristen Moistus from Mindfulness with Elaine and Education Estonia, respectively, for making not only this, but the 3 webinars a reality. And I am sure that all the 3 webinars were of benefit for our educators and school leaders in general. We are still, and we are also already planning other webinars for the coming months, not only with Education Estonia, but also with other partners, especially in my case from educational institutions, not only from Estonia, but also from Finland, and more information will be provided to you in the coming days. And I am sure also that Pamela, and once again I thank her, will also be providing us with information about our next webinar. Pam.
Yes, thank you very much, Vella. In fact, I would just, before I do so, if you'll allow me, just to remind you that if you want a certificate of participation, please register via the link that was provided to you at the beginning of the session. Yes, we would like to inform you and perhaps invite you to our next webinar. It might take a different kind of stance to the ones that we've had recently. This webinar would be more of a debate where perhaps we encourage you more to participate actively in a webinar which will be talking about the good, the bad and the ugly truth about innovation in education. It's on Wednesday, 8th June. Between 4 and 6, it is also online, and the guest speakers for this webinar would include Mart Raadik, one of the people who we had the honor of listening to today, and our former Minister of Education and Foreign and European Affairs, Aivar Hiio. So we invite you to this webinar. We will be putting the link to the registration in the chat as soon as we finish from this particular webinar. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for being with us today, for participating, for contributing in as best way you could. And until the next time, take good care of yourselves and each other. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a nice day.